Single dad revealed hidden connection transforming CEO's paralyzed daughter's life in just 5 minutes. Jake had always been the kind of hardworking single dad who would step in front of any challenge. The glowing lights of the suburban neighborhood surrounded him, a picturesque scene of tightly knit families enjoying life while he hustled to make rent. The clock ticked rapidly, and he felt the weight of 2 jobs pressing down on him as he focused on one thing, his daughter, Lily. With her artistic talent and dreams that reached the skies, she was his world, and he would do anything to ensure her happiness. One evening, they found themselves at the community center's charity event. Laughter echoed, the clinking of glasses filled with bubbling champagne added to the atmosphere, but Jake felt an unexpected unease. The glowing ambience turned cold when he noticed Emily, the paralyzed daughter of a wealthy CEO, sitting alone among the crowd. Even in her wheelchair, she radiated beauty, but her eyes drenched in unfulfilled hopes pulled at Jake's heart, urging him to move closer. "Hey there," he spoke gently, kneeling to meet her gaze. The warmth in his tone broke through the barrier between their different realities. "Mind if I join you?" Emily's tentative smile was like a crack of light in a dark room. Here, under the same sparkling chandeliers, they found common ground, vulnerability and dreams dashed by circumstances. They shared their fears, the overwhelmed world outside, and the struggles they faced. Jake saw fire in Emily's spirit, her passion for painting silhouetted against her challenges. He felt an undeniable connection, their hearts meeting amidst the raucous laughter of the oblivious crowd, but then everything changed. The initial warmth between Jake and Emily transformed as the CEO entered the scene. Dense tension filled the air when Jake confronted him about the disparity in their lives. "You know," he challenged, voice steady but heart racing, "your wealth has built walls around your daughter, and it's time to tear them down." The words hung heavy, echoing with truth. Gasps rippled through the crowd, their world feeling dangerously close to unraveling. Before they could grasp the ramifications of that moment, an accident shattered the evening. It rocked both families and sent shockwaves through their padded suburban lives. Jake's instincts kicked in, and he rushed to support Emily, reminding her of her dreams, igniting a flicker of hope. Meanwhile, the CEO found himself grappling with his failures as a father, witnessing the cracks in his family's perfection laid bare before him. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Something shifted in the atmosphere that night. Jake's relentless courage to fight for what's right began to inspire change in Emily and the CEO alike. As the silence settled and reflections began, there was a sense of anticipation, a promise that deeper connections were forming. Would Jake's unwavering spirit help pave the way for understanding? Could Emily find her voice and vision, despite the obstacles thrown in her path? The air thickened with possibility, leaving everyone hanging on the edge, yearning to discover if love and acceptance could weave together the frayed threads of their lives. In the days following the charity event, the aftermath lingered like an echo. Jake couldn't shake off the feeling that everything had changed, but he didn't know how. His days were filled with work, his nights were dedicated to Lily, yet his mind drifted back to Emily. Each moment he spent juggling responsibilities made him wonder about her. How was she coping? Did the confrontation with her father stir something in her? Meanwhile, Emily's world had turned upside down. After the accident, she found herself enveloped in an understanding that she had long been denied. Her father's care had always seemed like a fortress, but now, those walls felt suffocating. She replayed Jake's words in her mind. "It's time to tear them down." For the first time, she contemplated breaking free from the confines of her father's expectations. The bond they shared that night felt like a lifeline. With every passing hour, she was fueled by a determination to reclaim her dreams. Her paintbrush danced across the canvas waiting for color and emotion. As she created, she felt alive. The strokes were bold and unrestrained, reflecting the turmoil inside her. Each brush of paint was a step toward breaking free from her father's grip. Jake, unknowingly, was set on a similar path. Inspired by Emily's strength, he began advocating more fervently for change in their community. He rallied for inclusive programs and opportunities for the disabled. He spoke at local meetings, conveying the importance of understanding, empathy, and unity. The CEO's eyes opened wider with each passing day, seeing beyond his wealth to the emotional barriers he had built. One evening, Jake received an unexpected phone call. It was Emily. Her voice trembled with excitement, and Jake felt his heart race. "I've been painting," she said, "and I want you to come see." "Absolutely," he replied, barely containing his enthusiasm. They agreed to meet at the community center, a place that had become a symbol of their intertwining lives. As he prepared for their meeting, Jake felt a rush of emotions. Would this be an opportunity to deepen their connection? Or even to truly help her discover the artist she was meant to be? When he arrived, the vibrant colors in Emily's artwork radiated against the dull walls, transforming the environment. It was a burst of life, hope, and newfound freedom. Emily waited for him with an eager smile. As she unveiled each piece, Jake could see the soul she poured into her art, the stories behind every stroke, the pain and resilience bubbling through in every vibrant hue. Tears brimmed in Jake's eyes, not from pity, but from the raw beauty he witnessed. "Emily, this is incredible," he said, struggling to find the right words to encapsulate what he was feeling. The connection between them deepened, each brush of paint rewriting their narratives. But as Emily shifted closer, a shadow fell over the moment. The CEO stepped into the gallery. Tension rose, filling the air with unspoken words, a mixture of hope and fear. Would he understand what had begun between them, or would he attempt to drive them apart once more? The silence beckoned, pregnant with possibility. Jake faced the CEO, wondering if they were about to witness the turning point for all their lives. Could this be the moment of truth where change took root? Emily's eyes darted back and forth, anticipation sparkling within them. What would her father do? Could he finally see beyond his fortress? Would he grasp how important this all was? It all hung in the balance. The silence shattered as the CEO's voice sliced through the vibrant air. "What is going on here?" he demanded, eyes narrowing at the artwork that surrounded them. The confidence Jake felt a moment ago faded, replaced by a surge of trepidation. How could he defend this moment when words felt so inadequate? Emily glanced at Jake, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Was she ready for this confrontation? The thrill of their shared connection collided with the looming presence of her father, turning the loving atmosphere into a battlefield. She inhaled sharply and steeled herself. "Dad," she spoke, struggling to sound calm, "this is my art. It's everything I've been feeling. I want you to see it." The confidence in her voice surprised even her. The CEO took a small step back, eyebrows arched in disbelief. "You're spending time with him?" he spat, pointing an accusing finger at Jake. "He's just a charity case, Emily. Don't you see that?" "See what?" she shot back, anger mingling with hurt. "He's not just some charity case. He's helped me find my voice. My life isn't a project for you to control. It's mine." The hurt radiating from her words made Jake's heart ache. But there was something else: strength. Emily's art symbolized freedom, not just for her but for them both. "Sir," Jake spoke up, voice steady despite his racing heart, "what your daughter is doing is remarkable. She's not looking for your approval anymore. She's trying to create her own identity." He felt compelled to defend Emily, to show her father the woman she was becoming. The CEO's expression shifted slightly, but his eyes still reflected a firm resistance. "Art won't pay the bills or grant you security, Emily. You need to be grounded in reality." It stung. Jake winced, feeling the weight of those words. They struck a nerve with memories of his own father, who never understood his desire to chase dreams instead of stability. Reality? Emily asked, her voice rising. You mean your reality? I've lived in your shadow long enough. But this, she gestured wildly to the canvases, this is my world now. I'm not going back. The turmoil inside the room was palpable. Jake could almost feel the walls closing in on them, yet Emily stood firm, her spirit glowing. The CEO's response was a tense pause, as if he too was feeling the magnitude of the moment. I don't want to hear this, he finally replied, voice low, laced with a mix of annoyance and worry, yet it wasn't enough to silence the truth Emily had unleashed. Then why are you here? Emily shot back, voice steady but heart racing. She was staring into the eyes of the man who had kept her caged for so long and realized she was no longer afraid. The CEO glanced to Jake and Emily, recognition dawning. For the first time, he was confronted with the reality of his daughter's strength, her defiance, and perhaps his own failures as a father. The silence thickened again, but now it was charged with something different possibility. Feeling emboldened, Emily took a step closer, her voice softer. I need your support, Dad. Not your judgment. I'm asking you to try to understand. As the tension reached its peak, Jake sensed truths hung in the balance, ready to reveal themselves. Would the CEO find the courage to change? Or would he remain locked in his fortress as Emily dared to step outside? In that electric moment, everything could shift. The air shimmered with uncertainty. What would happen next? Emily's heart pounded with the weight of her father's reply. Would he break down the walls, or reinforce them even further? The CEO's gaze faltered, the tension in the air thickening like fog. Emily's heart raced, teetering on the edge between fear and hope. It felt as though the whole world had narrowed down to just the three of them, the hostility of the moment, encapsulating their emotions. Understand? He echoed, the disbelief shifting to a hint of vulnerability. Do you think it's easy for me, Emily? All I've ever wanted is the best for you. A flicker of uncertainty ignited within Emily. Had he always meant to protect her? Was it truly about love, or control? Yet, before she could respond, Jake stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment pulse through him. Maybe he doesn't know what's best for you, Jake said, voice steady and clear. Best doesn't mean following a predetermined path. It means what makes you feel alive. Emily shot Jake a grateful glance, feeling the strength of his support. The words lingered in the air, ringing with the truth they all needed to hear. The CEO's expression shifted further, a battle of emotions playing across his face as he processed Jake's statement. I ran a company to support you, he protested, frustration simmering beneath his words. I thought money and stability would make you happy. Emily shook her head, the sadness in her chest hardening toward resolve. But Dad, you didn't ask me what I wanted. I never chose that life. All those art pieces. She gestured toward the colorful canvases, they are my heart. My dreams. I want to reclaim my life. Her father's jaw tightened, the remnants of anger framed in his features. But somewhere underneath, there was confusion. Did he actually see her? Could he recognize that behind all the success and stability he equated with happiness, lay the longing for something more genuine? Emily could feel the world shifting. Even if the CEO refused to believe in her art, perhaps he could believe in her. With each passing moment, she became less intimidated. A flicker of rebellion illuminated her resolve. Just try it, she urged, stepping closer. Visit my exhibits. Talk to my friends. Understand what this is to me. So you want me to embrace your foolishness? The CEO scoffed, but there was a tremor in his voice, an echo of what might be a large crack in his facade. All I'm asking for is a chance, Emily replied, her eyes burning with intensity. If she could break down the walls of her father's indifference, then maybe she could emerge into herself fully. Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, the air shifted. Jake held his breath, watching the weight of years hover between father and daughter. Would the CEO take the leap, or would the years of control and distance continue to strangle the possibility of connection? After what felt like an eternity, the CEO exhaled, his expression softening ever so slightly. You really believe this is what you want? Yes, Emily said, her voice trembling with truth. It's more than a want, it's a need. The CEO looked at Jake, then back to Emily. Time slowed an emotional impasse, a necessary reckoning. But this moment was more than exchanges of words, it was about understanding the truth between them. Just then, the door swung open, and a newcomer entered, an artist who had attended many of Emily's events, their presence electric and unexpected. Jake's gaze flicked toward the stranger, sensing this shift just might change everything. With a knowing smile, the artist connected the eye to Jake before addressing Emily and her father. Hope I'm not interrupting, but I heard there were some astonishing discussions happening in here. Can I share something? The room fell silent again, but this time charged with a different kind of energy. What revelation was going to come next? Jake felt it, a shift that could either solidify their progress or drive a wedge deeper. Would this artist be the catalyst for change, breaking open the tender vulnerability they all held? Now, everything was unfolding in ways no one could predict. The artist stood at the threshold, a mix of confidence and warmth radiating from their presence. They stepped further into the room, their eyes flickering from Emily to her father. Jake sensed a shift, a ripple of potential that might sway the course of this tense encounter. I'm Alex, the artist finally said, breaking the weight of silence. And I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about passion versus practicality. I think I might have something relevant to share. Emily exchanged a hopeful glance with Jake. The air, once thick with hostility, now buzzed with anticipation. Alex continued, speaking with a spark that was contagious. I know Emily through her work, and I've seen how her art breathes life into those who experience it. But more than that, I know what it feels like to chase after dreams when everyone around you doubts. Believe me, following my passion was far from easy. The CEO's eyebrows knit together, skepticism evident on his face. But Emily could see the cracking edges of his defenses like the faint light breaking through the clouds of a storm. Art is about vulnerability, Alex persisted, their voice soft yet powerful. It's about connecting with ourselves and with others. When Emily creates, she's not just painting, she's expressing her very essence. It's more than a hobby, it's her soul laid bare. And that's what people connect to. A flicker of understanding flashed in the CEO's eyes, watching Emily as if for the first time. Her heart raced. Listen, Jake interjected, sensing the emotional tide shifting. What if you embraced Emily's pursuit instead of fighting it? It could add a new depth to the relationship you've both missed out on. If you could open your mind, you might discover that helping your daughter find joy will only strengthen your bond. Emily felt an overwhelming rush of hope. Could it be that simple? She studied her father's face, searching for any sign of belief. Alex, you're an artist too. The CEO said, forcing out the words. What makes you think this path is worth pursuing? A proud smile spread across Alex's face. Because it transformed my life. I was paralyzed by fear and the expectations of others. But when I finally put my heart into my work, that's when I felt truly alive. The tension in the room began to shift. Emily could feel the energy corralled in a glimmering sense of possibility. It looked as if Alex might finally be the bridge her father required, the voice to guide him toward empathy and understanding. Imagine, Alex continued, if you put all your expectations aside just for a moment and stepped into Emily's world. What would you see? Not just as a father, but as a human being. This might be your chance to see her not just as your daughter but as a person with a dream. The CEO's mask of authority slipped just a fraction more. He stood quietly, contemplation etching lines on his forehead. Emily's pulse quickened. Would he take the step? Could he truly see beyond his own fears and expectations? The silence lingered, stretching into the rawness of shared uncertainty. Moments felt alive with weight, begging for resolution, clarity, connection. Her heart thudded, filled with every pulse of hope she could muster. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. "Take a chance on me." In that moment, with the three of them rooted in shared vulnerability, everything hovered on the brink of transformation. But just then, as the atmosphere thickened with anticipation, the CEO swallowed hard, and a sudden shrill notification pulsed through the room. His phone vibrated relentlessly, shattering the intimate tension they had built. "What now?" he snapped, irritation clouding his features again. The world shifted again, and Emily feared this was a signal of retreat. Would they lose this moment? She held her breath, desperate for the connection they had started to forge. In an instant, the promise of a breakthrough hung precariously, leaving everyone to wonder, would this disruption solidify the walls or ignite the fire of change? Would the CEO answer the call of his duty, or would he finally acknowledge the call of his heart? The CEO glared at his phone, eyes narrowing at the screen, as if it held all the answers he'd been searching for. The moment of connection with Emily, so ripe with possibility, felt like it was being snatched away. Jake crossed his arms, ready to interject again, but something in Alex's unwavering gaze held him back. "Sir," Alex said smoothly, "it can wait. Whatever that is, it doesn't compare to what's happening in this room right now. The real urgency is here, between you, your daughter, and yourself. Don't let a device dictate this moment." Emily felt a surge of admiration for Alex. They stood there, resolute and fierce, challenging an entire lifetime of her father's conditioning with mere words. She watched him wrestle with disbelief and frustration, sensing a tempest brewing behind his eyes. "I'm not here to disrupt your life," Alex continued, tilting their head slightly, "but sometimes we need to be disrupted to see what really matters. Think about what your daughter just asked you. All those years, what have they built, if not distance?" The CEO clenched his fists, a storm of conflict raging within him. It was as if Alex had thrown a lifeline, and he was caught between grabbing it or allowing it to slip away. They were right. There was urgency in the room, an urgency he'd spent far too long ignoring. "Emily," he finally said, his voice almost a whisper, "I just say it, Dad," she pressed, her heart pounding with hope. "You can be honest with me. You might see something you never saw before." A moment of vulnerability flickered across the CEO's hard features. The facade he had wielded as authority for so long began to crack. "I'm scared of seeing you hurt. Of you failing. I don't want to watch you live a life filled with regrets." Those words hung in the air like a heavy mist. Emily's heart surged with empathy. "I'm scared too," she admitted, feeling raw and exposed. "But I can't live my life based on fear. We both deserve more than that." Tension crackled as they locked eyes, a shared understanding weaving threads of connection between them. Alex watched the exchange, their presence a silent encouragement for both to lean into the discomfort. "Isn't that the point?" Alex stepped forward, their voice rich with emotion. "Being scared but still trying. Stumbling through life and learning from the falls. It's the connections we make on the way that truly shape us. Emily doesn't need your guarantees of success, she needs your support as she navigates her own path." The CEO swallowed hard, the fight visibly draining from him. But he began, searching for an escape. "No more buts," Jake interjected, sensing the tide's shift. "It's time for acceptance instead. You have to decide who you want to be, not just as a father but as a person. Who do you want to champion, the idea of success or your daughter's dream?" The silence that followed felt monumental. The pulse of emotion pushed against every wall he had built. Emily's heart raced, each beat echoing the gravity of the moment. Would her father finally choose connection over control? Then a new vibration startled them. This time it was Alex's phone. They glanced down at the screen, their expression shifting suddenly. "I'm sorry, I've got to take this," Alex said quickly, keeping their eyes toward Emily's father, who was still caught in a whirlpool of thoughts. "Just hold on to this moment," they added, stepping away briefly but leaving a thread of hope suspended in the air. Emily watched as Alex ducked out of the room, leaving her and her father shrouded in tension once more. Would this disruption, this absence, push her father further away, or would he finally turn to her? "Dad," she breathed, her heart racing in anticipation as she tried to place all her hope in the few words that slipped through her lips. "I really want you to understand." But then, just as she gathered her courage, she noticed his gaze drifting away, lost somewhere far beyond their moment, and she feared the potential of shifting tides had once again come undone. Would he hold on to the connection, or had the weight of expectations already buried their chance for truth? Emily felt a knot tightening in her stomach as her father's eyes wandered. The air felt thick, pressing down on her, filled with words unsaid and emotions swirling like a storm about to break. She wanted to grasp his attention, to tether him to the moment they'd just begun to share. "Please, Dad," she urged softly, her voice barely a whisper, yet laced with the weight of years. "I'm still here. I need you here too." For a few precious seconds, it seemed to work. His eyes flickered back to her, momentarily breaking through that barrier. But the flicker faded as quickly as it appeared, returning to the shadows clouding his expression. Emily could see the battle raging inside him, the push and pull between fear and love. "I don't even know what to say," he finally confessed, almost defeated. "I've spent so long thinking I was protecting you. All those years, I thought that if I kept you safe from trouble, you'd have everything you needed." "That's not how it works," she replied, emotion roughened in her throat. "Safety isn't the same as connection. All I wanted was to be seen, to be understood, failure included." Her heart pounded as she watched his expression shift, a crack appearing in the armor he wore so well. "I just thought if I could pave the way for you, if I could just make your life easier, but at what cost?" Emily interjected, feeling tears well up. "Did you think I wouldn't grow or struggle? Those are part of life. I needed you by my side, not just as a provider but as a father." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration mingling with realization. "I've always been so focused on success, business, achievements. I thought that was what you would want from me. What I want is to feel like I matter to you, not just your legacy," she said, her voice strong. "I want to create my own story. Can you trust me enough to let me?" The silence wrapped around them once more, thick with the truth they were both grappling with. A few minutes felt like hours, and in that stillness, Emily could feel hope fluttering and crashing at once. Suddenly, the door creaked open, breaking the tension. Alex returned, their expression unreadable but serious. "I'm back," they announced, looking between Emily and her father. "What is happening?" Emily barely had time to respond before the phone in her father's pocket buzzed yet again, shattering the fragile atmosphere they had begun to mend. He reached for it instinctively, but then paused, torn between duty and the moment they were trying to seize. "Do you really need to take that?" Jake pressed, his voice lowering as he sensed the shift was sensitive, teetering on a precipice. "Right now, it feels," the CEO started, only to falter again, eyes darting between the phone and his daughter, confused about which direction to lean. "Dad." Emily spoke up, urgency rising within her. "What is more important? A call that can wait, or this moment between us that might define us?" His hand froze above the phone, his brow furrowing. The world outside his office felt so distant, so irrelevant for the first time. I don't want to lose this again," he admitted, the tension now brimming with potential. Emily's breath caught in her throat. "Then choose, Dad. Choose me." The CEO's expression hardened momentarily, but then, as if a switch flicked inside him, something softened. Was it a decision forming, a crack breaking wide open? She could feel an electric charge in the air, a moment of clarity blooming. But just then, an unexpected sound, a loud crash, came from the hallway outside, followed by hurried footsteps. Emily's heart dropped as dread unfurled inside her. What was that? The door jolted open wider, a figure bursting in, someone neither of them expected, dressed in urgency. The moment they'd just begun to build was poised on the edge of chaos. Hey, I need your help. The newcomer shouted, and just like that, the chance to break through hung in the air, delicate yet unstable. Would this derail them again, or would it push them further toward honesty? Emily stepped back instinctively, her heart racing as she processed the figure that rushed into the office. It was Mark, the family friend who had run their financial operations for years. His unkempt hair and wild eyes spoke of urgency mixed with distress. Mark? Jake's voice softened in surprise, clearly unprepared for such an intrusion. We're in trouble. Mark exclaimed, scanning the room before landing on Jake, his voice turning grave. The investor who was supposed to finalize our deal just pulled out. I don't know what to do. The company could go under. Jake's face hardened, the weight of the world seemed to settle back onto his shoulders. Emily felt the moment they'd been building toward slip through her fingers, like grains of sand. Can't this wait? Jake asked cautiously, glancing at Emily. The plea in her father's eyes was unmistakable, but Mark shook his head furiously. No. Not if we want to save everything we've built. I wouldn't have come if it weren't urgent. Emily felt the familiar contraction of dread in her stomach. Here was yet another priority snatching away the precious connection she had almost reforged with her dad. It felt like betrayal, not from Mark, but from the world demanding her father's attention. Just give me a moment, I will be right back, Jake said abruptly, but it sounded like an empty promise. No. Emily's voice rang out, firm and quaking at the same time. You can't just leave. Her heart clenched as she struggled to express the enormity of what they'd just begun to discuss. Jake turned, irritation flashing in his eyes. This is about my career, Em. You don't understand the consequences of this. The heat in his tone stung like pinpricks against her skin. I do understand, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. But sometimes we need to prioritize what matters most people. I'm here, please don't choose your work over me again. Not now. Mark observed the growing tension, and for the first time, guilt flitted across his face. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just know, Emily interjected, her voice louder. This is between my dad and me. Jake's eyes softened briefly, just for an instant, enough that Emily thought she could reach him again. But then the mask of the CEO fell back into place, hard and unyielding. Emily, I have to go. You'll understand when you're older. I'm old enough to know I can't be just a line item on your list. She shot back, feeling the weight of her words erupt like a volcano, raw and unfettered. The air felt charged again, emotions flickering wildly. Mark looked to Jake, then back to Emily, unsure how to proceed. Look, I'll handle the call, he finally said cautiously, breaking the tension. Jake, maybe take a breath. You might find that the best decisions sometimes come when you step back a moment. For the first time, a hint of awareness seemed to seep into Jake's expression. A flicker of unease washed over him, and Emily seized the opportunity. Dad, please. Just listen. You might be surprised by what you find when you pause. But as Jake opened his mouth, the phone buzzed loudly again, the screen flashing an emergency alert that seemed to demand his attention like a siren call. Urgency flickered in his eyes again, and Emily felt a rush of desperation. No, Dad. You have to fight for us. Fight for your family. The whirlwind of chaos roared around them, but this was a moment of truth. Would he dare take a step back from the ledge of his instincts as a businessman? As Emily waited on the edge of hope, ready for whatever answer Jake might offer, a startling revelation glimmered in her mind. Was this really about the company, or was it a chance for her father to finally see the daughter he had kept at arm's length? Please, don't walk out again, she breathed, fear and longing mixed into one powerful plea. As the tension hung in the air, something shifted. And just beyond the door, the sound of distant voices grew louder, hinting that the day's chaos had only just begun. Jake's gaze darted between Emily and the buzzing phone, torn between his responsibilities and the pleading look in his daughter's eyes. For a moment it felt as though time had stilled. His heart wrestled with the demands of his career and the urgent need to reconnect with the little girl he had somehow lost along the way. "Emily," he started, his voice a strained whisper. The phone interrupted, vibrating aggressively on the table as though it, too, demanded his attention. Jake grimaced, the sound pounding in his ears. Why was it so hard to make this choice? He didn't want to fail his family, but right now, his family felt lost in a whirlwind of expectations and obligations. Mark shifted uneasily, glancing at both of them, hoping to bridge the widening gap. "Jake, just think about it. Your company is important, yes, but so is this moment. You can't keep pushing her away." Emily felt a surge of emotion, not just frustration, but a flicker of hope. Maybe Mark was right. If Jake could look past the flickering lights of his phone, maybe he could really see her. "I just want you to see me, Dad. You have no idea what it feels like to have you choose everything else over me." Her voice cracked, thick with unearned regret and raw honesty. Jake's eyes darkened, the weight of her words pressing against his chest. He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Instead, he took a step back, leaning against the wall, pressing his palms onto its cool, rough surface. It was the first thing that grounded him in this whirlwind of chaos. He felt swallowed by his choices, suffocated by dual obligations he could neither abandon nor handle. "I can't lose my company," he finally managed, the words slipping out like sand through fingers. "It's everything I've worked for." Emily's heart raced at the thought of her father associating his worth with his success. "And how about everything we've built as a family? Doesn't that matter?" A heavy silence fell, thick enough to choke on. Mark's expression reflected the tightrope they all balanced on. Time crept slowly, and the urgency pressed like a dwindling pulse. Jake's eyes softened again, glimmers of confusion and understanding battling for supremacy. Every inch of him wanted to turn and flee into the safety of his business, the familiarity of spreadsheets and projections. But the other part, the father part, called him to face a truth that had lurked in the shadows for far too long. "But if I walk away," he began, uncertainty coating his every word. "Then walk away," Emily interrupted, desperation bleeding into her voice. "Just this once. What about us, Dad? Don't you want to reconnect? Isn't this worth saving?" Somewhere in the distance, voices grew less shadowy, the murmuring chaos drawing closer as more figures approached, competing for his attention. The sound sent a fresh wave of anxiety rippling through him, but he still stayed rooted, caught in the undertow of his daughter's plea. The emergency alert tone cut through the silence again, this time louder, more insistent, reminding him of the relentless responsibilities waiting outside this room. But in this moment, the maddening world beyond did not matter. Each tick of the second hand echoed the importance of what lay before him. Maybe it's not just about the company," Jake finally said, a hint of change colored his voice. "Maybe I've been looking at this all wrong." Emily's heart raced, anticipation igniting hope again. "What do you mean?" Jake took a deep breath, the fight slowly evaporating from his posture. Maybe just for this moment, he didn't have to choose. Maybe he could stand balanced at the crossroad of both worlds. But before he could articulate a full thought, a heavy knock resonated through the office door. It shattered the fragile atmosphere like glass, and all three turned their attention toward it. "Jake! We need you now." A voice boomed from the hallway, filled with urgency. Jake's shoulders fell as dread crept back in, clouding the light forming in his heart. Emily's expression faltered, fear rearing its head once again. Would he turn back? Retreating into the embrace of work, or could he muster the courage to stay? In that charged silence, only one certainty lingered: this moment could define everything for them. As the door creaked open, Emily felt a flicker of resignation and resolve battling within. Would her dad finally choose family over his empire? The moment of truth was close. What if he walked out again? The tension was palpable as the door swung open, revealing a team of anxious employees, caught up in the frantic chaos that Jake had tried to escape. It felt like a scene from a movie, as all three of them stood frozen, a tableau of expectations, dreams, and finally, choices. "Jake, we don't have time," one of his team members pleaded, eyes wide and breathless. The urgency coupled with the undertone of desperation tugged at Jake. The world outside beckoned him back into its fold, pulling him from the delicate moment he'd been threading with his daughter. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the encroaching dread wash over her once more. "Dad!" she called out, voice steady despite the tremor beneath it, trying to grab his attention. "You have a choice to make. Don't let that world decide for you. Please." Jake hesitated, looking between his frantic team and his daughter, who stood so resolutely in that moment. His heart raced, every heartbeat felt like a crack echoing through the room. "I can't just." "Why not?" she interrupted, cheeks glossy with unshed tears. "Why can't you let this one moment for us matter as much as everything else?" There it was, the haunting truth. Each word she spoke peeled back layers of his barriers. The doubts, the fears, the expectations that had dictated his life for far too long began to shift. That he took a step back and leaned against the wall, feeling it steady him as he looked more closely at his daughter. All these years he tried to protect her from failure and hurt, yet here she was, striving to embrace life with courage that caused his heart to swell. "Mark," he said, really looking at his friend instead of just hearing the frantic energy surrounding him, "can the meeting wait?" Everyone around him held their breath. Silence stretched in the air like a rubber band, taut and ready to snap. Yes, I mean," Mark stammered, caught off guard, "but Jake, the stakes are high and you know what's at risk if we don't." "Family is at risk too," Jake cut in, his voice quiet but gaining volume, strength unfolding behind it. Emily's pulse quickened as she took in the sudden flicker of change within her father. Could it be? Was the weight finally lifting? "Dad," she whispered, stepping a little closer, "you taught me to follow my dreams, to put my heart into what I love. Please, let me teach you the same." Jake took a deep breath, casting a glance at the expectant faces of his team before looking back to Emily. "You're right." His expression softened, resolve settling in. "Let's take a step back. Maybe my company doesn't need me to fight all the time. Maybe there's a way to balance." The moment hung, filled with possibility, and for the first time, Jake felt a shift he never thought he could make. He turned to the door, casting one more look at his team, who eyed him with a mix of confusion and hope. "Take the lead on this. I trust you," he spoke firmly. "I need some time with my daughter." Emily felt the tears spill over, but they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of relief, of joy. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart swelling as they locked gazes, a moment cascading in shared connection. "Can we have a do-over?" he asked softly, stepping toward her, and in that small gesture, she felt the walls they'd both built slowly crumbling around them. The shadows of misunderstandings began to vanish, leaving only the brilliance of a new dawn. Jake reached for her, and she quickly closed the distance, wrapping her arms around him. "I'm here," he said, warmth filling the spaces that had felt so cold. They stood in the tender embrace, everything shifting. The chaos beyond their moment dulled and faded, leaving only the vibration of connectivity, father and daughter discovering a language they had nearly lost. "Just paint with me. Teach me what you love," he murmured against her hair, and Emily squeezed him tighter, feeling the scars of their past begin to heal. From the doorway, Mark stepped back into the hallway, sensing the significance of the moment unfolding, leaving behind the uncertain whispers of the business world for this intimate familial exchange. Through the murmur of voices around them, the clarity emerged: connection, vulnerability, love. The world kept spinning, but for Jake and Emily, they held the power to shape their own narrative. Human hearts would always weave through the struggles, but it was their choice to lean into the light, embracing the chaos as they danced into a new chapter filled with creativity, understanding, and hope. In that charged atmosphere, the moment swaying past time, they found their voices, each stroke of the brush painting a future reclaimed, together, and as the echoes of laughter and hope filled the room, a voice resounded in their hearts: "Let us be brave. Now that you've witnessed this incredible transformation, don't wait not even one more second to join our growing community. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories filled with hope and inspiration. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum going. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending below. We want to hear from you, and finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support for such powerful stories.